always learn. Oh, there we go. Okay. Plus negative 3 times 64, and I get 84/13 is my answer. All right. So now we've got w squared, so that's 4 squared because w is 4, plus 2 times negative 3 cubed. Well, 4 squared is 16. 2 times negative 3 to the third is negative 27. That's negative 54. 16 minus 54 is negative 38. Let's put it on our calculator. 4 squared plus 2 times parentheses negative 3 close parentheses to the key third equals, and we get negative 38. Okay. You try this one, and when you're ready, I'll show you how I did it. Okay. So, I've got 4 times 7 minus negative 5. Now, I'm going to put it in parentheses because a is negative 5 squared. 7 times negative 5 plus 7 squared. Notice I don't need parentheses here because I don't have a negative sign. So I do my squaring first. Negative 5 squared is 25. 7 squared is 49. I'm going to subtract that. I'm going to add this. 4 times 7 is 28. 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. 28 minus 25 is 3. Negative 35 plus 49 is 14. Let's put it on our calculator and see what we get. Fraction key first. 4 times 7 minus parentheses negative 5 close parentheses squared. Now I'm going to go down to the denominator. 7 times negative 5 plus 7 squared equals, and my calculator says 3/14. How do we use the distributive property? Well, the distributive property tells us that we're going to distribute. In this case, the A is going to be distributed to the B and the C. So we have AB and AC. We could also distribute it at the end, BA plus CA. You can distribute amongst 3 things, or 4 things, or 5 things. We sometimes call this removing or clearing the parentheses. Let's see how it works with this example. So we've got negative 4 times P minus negative 4 times 5. And we end up with negative 4P plus, because negative negative makes positive, 20. Negative 6M plus 2M is negative 4M. We undistributed actually in that case, didn't we? Try this one. We've got 2R plus 3S. Notice there's nothing to distribute, and so that is actually our answer. 5 we're going to distribute, so we'll have 5 times 4P minus 5 times 2Q plus 5 times R. 5 times 4 is 20P. 5 times 2 is 10, so it's minus 10Q plus 5 times R is 5R. And that's as simplified as it gets. You simplify this one, and when you're ready, I'll show you how I did it. Okay, so I'm going to distribute the 5, negative 5 times 4z plus negative 5 times 6m, and I get negative 20z minus, because this is a negative sign here, 30m. Negative 20z minus 30m. Let's talk about the identity properties. What are the identity properties? Well, we know that the number 0 is the only number that you can add to any number and leave it unchanged. So 0 is the identity element for addition, or the additive identity. 436 plus 0, you aren't going to need the calculator to know your answer is 436. The number 1 is the only number that can be multiplied by another number and leaving it unchanged. It's the identity element or multiplicative identity. 436 times 1 is 436. You don't need a calculator for that. So if you add 0 to a number, you end up with a number. If you multiply 1 times that number, you end up with that number. Now, why is this so important? Well, one of the things that people have a hard time with is they don't recognize that this is 1x. 1x, take 3 x's away, you're at negative 2 x's. This is negative 1, so it's negative 1 times 3 plus negative 1 times 4p, or negative 3 minus 4p. Notice when you have a negative sign in front of parentheses, that negative sign gets distributed to both parts of the numbers in parentheses. Okay, you try this one and I'll show you how I did it. Remember that the A is 1A. Okay, so you have 8 A's minus 4 A's is 4 A's, plus 1A is 5A. Take away 14. You can't combine A's and 14s because you can only combine things that are like. Let's do some more using the identity properties. The inverse properties. The inverse is what you add to get back to 0, or what you multiply by to get back to 1. The additive inverse is sometimes called the opposite of the number. The multiplicative inverse is sometimes called the reciprocal of the number. So if you add a number and its opposite, you get 0. If you multiply a number and its reciprocal, you get 1. The inverse properties undo the multiplication and addition properties, and they're what we are going to use to solve equations. Okay. We talked before about terms. Terms are products or numbers that can be raised to a power. Terms are separated by addition and subtraction signs. A coefficient is the number that goes in front of the variable in a term. These two are like terms because they are y. They are both y. These are like terms because they're both x squareds. These are not like terms because they don't have the same letter, and these are not like terms because they don't have the same power. You can only combine like terms. Okay, let's do some more work with inverse properties. Use the indicated property to write a new expression equal to the given one and simplify your expression. So 9 times 1/9, use the inverse property. 9 times 1 over 9, these cancel and you get 1. 9 plus the opposite of 9, negative 9, and you get 0. Okay, how about the commutative and associative property? I always remember a commutative property because you commute to and from work. So from work to home is the same as from home to work. And it doesn't matter whether you multiply or whether you add, you still get the same answer. So 2 times 9 is the same as 9 times 2, or 3 plus 4 is the same as 4 plus 3. The associative property is a little bit different. I always remember it by lawyers are associates, and it doesn't matter how they're grouped, you still have the same law firm. So we sometimes call the commutative property the order property, and we sometimes call the associative property the grouping property. Okay, so we can use those properties to simplify our answers. And one of the ways to simplify them is we could reorder these so that we get negative 9 plus 12b plus 4b minus 7b plus 1. Why is that so important? Because now we've got all these together. 12b and 4b is 16b minus 7b is 9b. Negative 9 plus 9b plus 1. Now let's reorder these, and we'll have negative 9 plus 1 plus 9b. And so our answer is negative 8 plus 9b. Now we actually do most of this work in our head. We would actually say 12b plus 4b is 16b minus 7b is 9b. Negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8. Notice these two are the same thing because of that commutative property that we were using. Let's look at the next one. You try this. Okay, remember the commutative property says that we can change the order, so let's change the order. X plus 4. Oops, there it is. X plus 4. Okay. I think you can use any property that you want to, but in this case, I think it's probably easy to look for ways to simplify this, and I don't see any right off the bat. 12b minus 9b is 3b, plus 5b is 8b, minus 7b is b. I suppose we could have thought of that as undistributing the b. We've got 12 minus 9 plus 5 minus 7. Okay? In this case, I think I would first of all take out the parentheses and rewrite it as 6 minus 2x minus. Remember, when you have this negative sign here, that changes that to negative 7 minus 3. 6 minus 7 is negative 1, minus 3 more is negative 4. So our answer is negative 2x minus 4. How about this one? Well, we're going to group them, the 4 and the 2, multiply them together and get 8, and we'll have 8mn. How about the multiplication property of 0? I'm thinking of a product whose answer is 0. One of the numbers is 436. What's the other number that you're going to multiply by to get 0? Well, that's 0, right? So if two numbers have a product of 0, one of those two numbers has to be 0. And we're going to use that extensively when we solve quadratic equations later on. Okay. Let's see what we've got here for our assignment, and see if you can solve these questions right here. Okay, which property is illustrated by 3 times 1 equals 3? Well, how do you get 3 as an answer? You only get it because you multiplied by the identity property, and that would be the multiplicative identity. Okay, notice here, they just switched the order of the 8 and the 5. The order property is the commutative property. Here they distributed the 6 amongst the x and the 2. Last one, they had the 2 and the 1 grouped, and they switched it to the 1 and the 1 being grouped, and so that would be the associative property. All right, what I'd like you to do is finish this assignment, and then if you have any questions, you can ask me for help.